All right, we're on the air. I just want to welcome you guys to this Power Hour. We're gonna call it just talk about it. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about the state of the Black American in this society in this country. This is not to plan anything. It's not to get together ideas for a demonstration, but it's simply to just educate one another and become aware of what is going on in our culture and in our communities today. So, with that, I want to open up the floor to anybody who has any opening statements as to what the state of our people is.
I'll say something. I just had a conversation with one of my close girlfriends about the repetitive killings and murders of Black men, and I don't know what the state is, but she like asked me what would I do, and what should I plan with my family, and I just think that it's getting really detrimental. Just like the media controls our mindsets at this point and controls how we think. So we're so deep in this wrong way of thinking that I'm not sure there's anything that we can do by, getting young Black men and women to be educated more. I think we're so deep in this that it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to educate people about ourselves. I'm just not sure what to do. I don't know.
I think I think that a very, very good point to bring up. I had another conversation about this just like an hour ago. Is that while we may not be able to completely transform the state that we're in right now, as far as like the police, you're not going to change how they think. If they already have preconceived notions, they're going to still have those. But what we're doing and what makes this movement so powerful is the fact that we're raising awareness. We
Exactly.
have we
Exactly.
have young Black students that are in middle school, high school, college students such as ourselves that are demonstrating. We've created conversation. The reform has began where you have the president talking about, I want to do this. You have mayors. It becomes an issue that no one can no longer, you can't ignore it. And before, in the 1960s and 50s and 40s, the problem was that it wasn't, people weren't aware of what was going on and they could ignore it and shove it under the rug. But what we're doing now is bringing it to the forefront to where you're having demonstrations and you're letting people know this is not, okay. And thank God for social media, because social media, it has its downsides, but because of social media, conversations like Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin have been able to, be put out there within an hour, and you have the story out there before the media has a chance to distort it. So,
Yeah. That's actually
Oh,
I told the people before who were in this before. That's how I heard about Mike Brown. Was I was on Twitter and I just kept seeing this picture of a dude laying in the street.
hmm
I'm like, what is this? Why would I thought it was like some hood stuff? Somebody had got shot in the hood. And I'm like,
hmm
why would they do dude like that? And then I just kept reading and reading and reading. And I said maybe about an hour after that, that's when I first saw it on CNN. So I'm like, oh man, I just saw like some firsthand news.
I saw a dude that was actually recording it on his Instagram page as it happened. And so it was late, and then I remember he posted to Instagram and he was talking about, yo, this dude just got shot outside my window as it was happening. And this was right after the shooting occurred. And this was on Instagram. This was before CNN could talk about what happened. Social media had the story first. Instagram and Snapchat had Mike Brown laying outside before CNN. And so at that point, you couldn't refute, what had happened or
I think
what was happening.
sometimes when we talk about these narratives and we talk about the status of our people today and talk about the lack of education, the ignorance, uh, the insensitivity, everything that's going on. Education has always been there. A lot of us have already been through secondary education, going through high school. Some of us even have been privileged enough to go to college. The education is there. The opportunity for awareness and for advancement and for enlightenment is there. But I think one thing that has remained the same is the lack of wisdom in our communities, the application of that information, the application of that knowledge. And
hmm
at some point, we have to begin to say, not no more education, but we need wisdom in our communities because that's the only way that we can seek peace. That's the only way we can seek justice. That's the only way we can seek strength and courage and character and all those types of beautiful things. But most of all, that's the only way we can seek love. And if we don't have wisdom, then there's no point of us going to college. There's no point of us getting these jobs, to learn, get all these beautiful experiences. I mean, those things are important, yes, but if we do not learn how to apply what we've been taught, what we've experienced in the last couple of years, then it's pointless. I mean, that's what life is. So I think we're looking at a life cycle of our people, and we're at a point where it's like we have reached that 20-year mark in our life. I mean, I know our people are not 20 years old, but how we're experiencing tremendous amounts of growth. But we think we're grown, but we still don't know some of the basic types of ways to live, like financial success. I mean, sustainability. We don't know how to take care of children, things like that. I think as a people, that's where we are, because we have egregious amounts of people not being able to raise their children. I mean, let's be honest. After our grandparents' generation, let's look at what our parents did. For the majority of us, we had at least one parent in the house. That was it. And then there was not financial strength in that household. A lot of us didn't have the opportunity to get that spiritual foundation if we didn't go with our grandparents. So it became a cycle, if anything. And then we are expecting our generation to quote unquote get it without having that foundation and those roots to really develop them and strengthen them when times become tough. So I think as a people, we have to begin to really have that conversation and understand where we are.
I have a question. I have a question for I don't know, the guy with the hoodie on, the black guy's hoodie. Okay, you said that we need to raise awareness and start having, I guess, more boycotts and different things like sit-ins. But you mentioned back in the 1960s and 50s, they were doing things like that. Like Dr. King and Malcolm X, they were raising awareness within their community. And if you look forward at the state of Black people, it seems like it's gotten worse. Although they went through those things and they were boycotting and things like Rosa Parks, it's gotten worse. Like, the media has pros and cons to it. More cons, because how do you combat that we should look like Nicki Minaj, or we should shake our ass, and not to curse or anything, or be like, you know what I'm saying? Like they put us out in the light as this is what we want to be. Younger generation, my brothers and sisters, think that the key to success in this world and making it through high school is to dress in Gucci and Louis and different things like that. So I'm not sure that these boycotts are going to be good for awareness if people don't really,
I think what's most. Can you hear me?
Yeah, kind of.
Somebody got music. That music's kind of loud. I can't hear myself. I think one thing I do is when I go to if I do a mentorship program, I go to high schools and I kind of speak to them about the exact same thing that you were talking about. And what I would say to that is that the boycotts themselves are not going to enact the kind of change that you're looking for. We're not going to wake up tomorrow and all of a sudden be treated equal or not be portrayed in the media as, the Nicki Minaj's and things like that. I feel like by raising awareness, what that is doing is, like I said, it gets people talking. But you brought up Nicki Minaj and you talked about how can we combat that? What people don't understand is that Black people only make up, I think, 13-14% of our population, right? So we are an extreme minority. But the images that are put out there, that's on us. So we're the ones putting out the Nicki Minaj images and the you gotta get money type images. That is something that is not, I don't feel, I could be wrong, I don't feel like that's directly correlated with Black Lives Matter, because what I've seen as of late is the protests that we're doing and the protests that are going on in New York, Atlanta, Philadelphia, things like that, that has created a sense of unity that America has not seen in the last 40, 50 years. We haven't seen that level of positivity in forever. And so it's kind of like you have to take what you can get. We're not going to wake up and all of a sudden everyone's going to be equal. The media's not going to stop. They're not going to stop portraying Black women as animalistic, and they're not going to stop portraying all Black men as thugs. It's not going to happen overnight. But what we can do is you have to start somewhere. You see what I'm saying? So the protests aren't going to, they're not there to basically change the way people think, because if a white cop is racist and it's going to be racist in his interaction with you, you can't change that. Hands up, don't shoot is not going to stop you from going to jail. But I think the biggest thing that people are trying to accomplish with these protests are you're raising that level of awareness to where you have NBA players, you have Nicki Minaj, you have Bow Wow, people getting on 106 in Park wearing "I Can't Breathe" shirts. We've done so much to where you have kind of brought the protest into our current media culture, hip hop culture, because now you see people coming out with that support, the "I Can't Breathe" shirt. So you kind of have to start somewhere. But I have seen the protests and the movements kind of make their way into urban culture a little bit, but it's not an overnight process.
If you will, I want to add something to that. You bring up a very valid point. Back in the 50s and 60s and the 70s, the protests and all those things, they were in direct response to a lot of legislation that was not there or that was present, which was injustice. And was unconstitutional. So what they did was they used the means that they knew how, was to come together and to march and to demonstrate, such as the things like the March on Washington, which had over 100,000 people. They used ways that they knew how to kind of address some of the concerns that they were having when it came to legislation. Dr. King always say, he said, you can't regulate how people behave, but you can legislate how they behave. So what they did was they would legislate how to not lynch me. So they made it illegal. So you had Jim Crow and all those things like that, and so that's the only way they knew how. So, but now the problem we face is not the same problem that they faced back then, because it's illegal to lynch someone, it's illegal to murder someone, but we still have the exact same problems, if not worse. So we're facing a more spiritual battle, if anything, and a lot of us don't have that spiritual foundation to really address those issues. So it becomes difficult, and we don't know what to do. And that's why the very first question that was proposed, I mean, not question, but Antoinette, you kind of was like, I really don't know what to do. Not saying that you don't have that spiritual foundation, but us as a people, we have to go back to our roots. We have to go back to really what our spiritual characters are, and to be able to really address these issues, because there's nothing, I mean, we can ask for legislation, we can ask for the body cameras, we can ask for all those things. The problem is still going to be there. So honestly, that's the only solution we have. We have to attack it with a spiritual strength, unlike any other, or we're not going to succeed.
That's a good point.
Somebody say something.
Earlier, I'm gonna say this. I don't want to dominate the conversation. I keep trying to like hold back. I love to speak. That's what I do. You brought up wisdom, and I thought that was a very, very valid point. I think that to also complement wisdom is discernment. I think with the education that comes through is that we may not be able to change the situation of the cops or how people react to us, but we can change how we react to them. So acting in love and not violence. And oftentimes, a lot of people don't, agree with this, but oftentimes when you have a negative interaction with a cop or someone in authority, a response is not always needed. You don't have to argue every point. The time to argue the injustice that we may face as African American men or women is oftentimes not in that situation. You're not going to sit there and argue with a cop at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night and let him know your rights and you're going to win. So just kind of discerning which battles to fight, kind of knowing when to choose your battles. That also goes along with wisdom. And I think that's something that we could all kind of interact with.
Also, the next problem we probably have to face is who is teaching us, who is leading us, because like Oprah, she kind of feels as though we don't have that leader to kind of push us in that right direction, and we have so many.
That's what I've been wanting to say. That's what I've been wanting to say.
Like we got so many people pushing us and pulling us in different directions, and honestly, to a certain degree, I can understand where she was coming from. Now, I do believe, however, that there are a lot of leaders that we have today that are organizing on the grassroots organizing and really pushing us and pulling us in the right direction. But at some point, we have to begin to unify together and have those leaders come together and work together. And that's one thing I don't see, because too many people are trying to garner attention for themselves or seek prominent. What is the word? Basically,
prominent positions.
Exactly, and it can't be about that. So that's one thing that's really lacking in our generation today, because too many people want the awards, they want the recognition. But if we focus on simply just changing, making this thing happen, making it better. I think that's why I'm so excited about what we're doing here, because it's just a group of leaders. It's not nobody wants to be president of this. Nobody wants to be director or it's not about that. It's about we really care about what we have going on here, and if nobody else would do it, we'll be here. So I definitely want to commend y'all for that, man. That's amazing.
Why is I know that violence can be bad at the same time. I just want to know why people are so opposed to organized violence, because at this point it's like they're killing black men repetitively. Like they killed Sean Bell back in 2005, and then it was Trayvon, then Mike Brown, then Eric Gardner, then the 12-year-old. It's like it's coming in masses now, and police are covering it up with, okay, oh, he came at me first, so I had to defend myself. So at this point, I feel like it's only going to get worse, and I don't understand why people are so opposed to violence. I know that no one wants to die, but sometimes people have to die for things to progress. That's just how it is. That's just
I'm totally with what you're saying, but I think it's a fear, because we grew up in a generation where we didn't have to worry about police dogs and water hoses. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a fear of that. If it came down to that, I'm not afraid of that. But at the same time, I'm not gonna be out here like some of the people who claim.
So let me ask this question. And what Nara just said brings up a very valid point. I disagree, but I'm gonna ask this question because we have to first understand what violence and what non-violence is. Because the preconceived notion is non-violence is passive, which it is not. We can be militant, but we can also be non-violent. So I want to ask Antoinette, and then I want to ask you, Nara, what do you think violence actually entails?
I can't really hear you. I'm sorry.
No, I'm definitely on a.
Well, can I answer that?
Go ahead.
All right. What I was what. Wait. Ask me that again.
What's the question? Yeah.
Okay, so basically the question is, what basically is violence? Because we oftentimes hear, there's often that juxtaposition between Dr. King's philosophy on nonviolence and passive resistance versus Malcolm X's militant resistance philosophy. So I'm basically asking, what is the difference between violence and nonviolence in your opinion? What is violence? What does that look like? If we were to organize violent movements, what does that look like? What does that entail?
Well, what I would say to that was a lot of people misconstrue a lot of stuff that Malcolm X said, saying that he was like, "Oh, go kill Whitey." But what he was saying a lot of times was, "Yeah, we got guns, we got bricks, we got sticks and knives, good over here. But y'all come that's when all hell gonna break loose." That's what he was saying. A majority of the time, yeah, he did have time, but he was like, they got one there, let's go get them. But the majority of the time, he was saying, we armed over here, we got the deacons of the fence, we out here, we good. Y'all try something, it's over and done with. But to go deeper into that, now is what's going on in the world not as out as it was before, because before, like, somebody be hanging from a tree, but now instead of that is a mental death instead of a spiritual death. You know what I'm saying? So people can die thousands of times more mental death than they can from an actual physical death. You know what I'm saying? So like in the hood, like the crack epidemic, that's killing us mentally. You know what I'm saying? We might still be walking around, but these rockheads, they don't really have like functions of what's going on. So that when you combine that with all the other stuff that's going on in the world, is all the mental death and the spiritual death. And if you have a mentally dead and spiritual dead person just walking around, they're a shell of a human, like a zombie,
I think I'm sorry.
What is that?
I know what that sound is.
I think people are trying to get on, so basically what I'm about to do is I'm try to go ahead and share it on so they can tune in and watch. So y'all can go ahead and keep talking while I try to work on that.
I think that she brings up, like, you bring up an excellent point about the whole why don't we demonstrate, what's wrong with violent demonstrations. My only, I guess, caveat with that is that I feel as if violence only begets violence. I don't feel like the violent response to what we're going through, while we could easily, you know, coordinate violent protests, I don't feel like that's going to get the action or the result that we want. For example,
And would it be?
I'm not trying to come at you at all. I'm really, believe me, I'm not trying to come at you at all. But I say this to every person that says the same thing about non-violence. I'm all for non-violent, I'm all for violence. But at the same time, historically,
that
when has any major change been brought about without any?
Well, then that means maybe you don't know. I don't know what these noise
What
If you
happened?
look historically, if you look at Malcolm X and the movements that he made, he was a by any means necessary type of man. That was his main quote: by any means necessary. And what that meant was to be prepared for anything. Not only but be prepared by having guns and things that they need to defend themselves, but by preparing their people, by being united for their people only. People are so our people are so like concerned with like, let's get everyone equally. We can't worry about everyone right now because in this state it's about us right now. We're dying. Like, yes, other people are dying, but our people are dying, and it's not as bad as lynching, but it doesn't even have to be that because they have our young men, they have our mentality so controlled. They don't even need to lynch us. We're doing it ourselves. We have this mentality where we don't they don't need to lynch us.
It's that mental death and that spiritual death.
Yeah, that's what you said, and I did agree with that. And I only say organized violence because it organized violence is not easy. Yes, violence is easy, but organized violence that has a plan and has a goal.
my question for that is organized
To add on what she was saying, I'm not saying go out and start murdering people in the streets like the purge, but what I'm saying, violence. To answer what the man was asking earlier, violence doesn't necessarily mean start blowing up police cars at all, because that's how you go to jail and possibly get shot in the face. What I'm saying is that we be out there toe to toe with them. Instead of turning around, why can't we have gas masks?
Because I feel like the biggest problem with that is because I've studied W.E.B. Du Bois' response to it and Malcolm X's response to it. And like I said earlier, we are the minority. Not saying we need to be afraid, but I'm saying you can go, you can even have that organized violence at the end of the day. Who's going to win that, and what are you going to accomplish? I'm in the Army, so we got gas masks. We can go toe-to-toe with the police officers, and we can wear the gas masks. But at the end of the day, your organized violence is not going to result. It's not going to be as effective as a non-violent movement, because a non-violent movement is going to say, okay, I feel like Dr. King's non-violent movement and the demonstrations, the things that happened at Selma, what that did is that showed people, okay, these people are not looking for an all-out war. You don't go to a fight 3 against 10. And so if black people want to go out there with guns and organized violence and all these protests, you're going to go up against a police force of 20,000, and we're no longer seen as a movement. We're seen as rebels. We're seen as those who are.
What I'm saying,
rebel though, why not?
If it comes to that, cool. But I'm not saying go out in the streets and do like old buddy did in New York and just take out 2 police officers. I'm not saying do that at all, because that doesn't help anybody's cause. It doesn't help our cause in light of the injustice system. It doesn't help them because now, I'm seeing all these increased reports of police on the streets in New York. So that didn't help anybody for anything. What I'm saying is don't be so nonviolent that you're afraid that if something were to happen that you just it's time to go home. Not nonviolent.
I don't think nonviolent is fear. I'm saying my question for you and Antoinette is this: let's say we do, because we as SNCC, we are not even just as SNCC, just as African Americans, we have that ability to coordinate a nonviolent movement, right? If we do that, what is your desired result? Because in my mind, thinking practically, let's say we have a organized violent movement and we show up and demonstrate. Let's say we get 500 people. They will have reinforcements of 1,000, of 2,000, and then you're working in a whole country that will be against that. First, it's going to be the governor. Then, if that's not going to work, it's going to be the National Guard. What is your desired result of that violent protest? What do you need to get? Because I know how reinforcements work.
Like I keep saying, I'm not. I mean, I'm for both of them, the non-violent, because you definitely do get more flies with honey than you do vinegar. But at the same time, I'm not backing away from the violent stuff. But I'm not advocating. But what I'm saying, if it happens, it happens. But
Right.
Let me put this in here because it will make the conversation a little bit more interesting, because just like Josh, I do serve in the military. I serve in the Army, and one thing we oftentimes, like I said, we throw out these non-violent, we throw out the violent terms, but I think what we're all seeking, if anything, is militancy. Because we're trying to apply what was done in the 60s and the 70s to what we're accomplishing now, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work, and we're not going to achieve the exact same result. So we have to find what works for us and apply that to what the situation we have going on. So my suggestion, and I'm pretty sure some people won't agree, we have to become militant. What that means is not to get out there, like you said, beating up police officers and blowing up cars, but at the same time, we're not going to be passive violent.
Right.
We have to begin to organize in such a way that we are strong in what we're accomplishing with that, what we're doing, but at the same time, we're not about to be out here aggressively trying to move different things happening.
I can't hear you.
You breaking up, bro.
Somebody's like background music is too loud.
Breaking up.
I gotta put theirs on mute.
That's how robots.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, my suggestion is we have to become militant, not non-violent, not violent. I mean, non-violence is the answer, yes. But we have to become militant in a way that becomes very organized. That's what militant means. It means organized and very strategic. A lot of people want to use the term non-violent and violence as a I guess a composition of basically how you address injustices in our communities, and I don't think that's beneficial to the conversation at all. And the reason why is because military science tells me if you are organized and you have a strategy to attack your directive, then you will be successful. But if we don't know who our enemy is, two, we don't know what we're attacking, it's almost impossible to be quote unquote violent.
Well, that's why it's organized. That's why it's organized.
Exactly. So if we're constantly but see, the thing is, when you talk about organizing violence, one, a lot of people don't know what that means. They just say, "Oh, if a police officer puts his hands on me, I'm gonna put my hands on him back." That's not what Malcolm X was talking about. That's not what Marcus Garvey was talking about. So you have a lot of people who are associating themselves with that type of movement who really don't understand the context in which it was used. So if at this point we have a conversation like this to kind of teach them, because I support both Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. Why? Because they both had philosophies as to how to address the issues concerning their community. Malcolm X wasn't saying go out there and shoot folk. He was like, if I'm gonna be peaceful, I'm gonna follow the law, but if somebody put his hands on me, I'm gonna send his ass to the what's it called? Cemetery.
Well,
Cemetery. But at the same time, I'm not gonna do that because I don't believe in being actively aggressive. But at the same time, I'm not gonna let somebody put his hand. Like, you can put your hand on me, but put your hands on my wife, you're gonna have problems. You know what I mean?
I don't know if I'm at a protest. If I'm at a protest and I get thrown to the ground. I mean, it's not finna be like, oh no, I'm non-violent. Right. I will react and I will retaliate. However, what I gotta say with black people is we have to choose our battles. Most of the time, if I'm going up against you and I don't have a gun or a bulletproof vest or handcuffs, that's a battle I'm gonna lose. So, Antoinette, what I really wanted to know, like, I like your point of view and I want us to explore that, but I just want to see, like, to you, what is organized violence? How would we do that, and what would it kind of mean? Because I feel like everybody's been talking, but I really want to hear what you were trying to come across.
Well, when I say organized violence, I want you guys to know that and I'm sure you guys do know this, that it's going to take a long time for that to come, because like Major said, who is the enemy and what does violence, what's that define? So it's going to take it. We need the right leaders in place for that to happen. And I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but my uncle, he's in the Black Panther organization. I don't know if he would like me saying that. He talks to me sometimes about the things that they're organizing, not things that I'm going to disclose, but it's going to take a lot of work because we're so damaged. We don't know our history. You know, we don't know where we come from. And I think that the goal of organized violence is to rebuild our own community, to start placing businesses in our own community. Like Malcolm X, what he was doing is he was starting pharmacies. He was starting grocery stores owned by Black people. Black people don't own anything nowadays. Like you said, we're the majority. I mean, we're the minority. We don't own much of anything. So if we go to a grocery store or a pharmacy or a hospital, those are usually owned by white people. It's time for us to build our own selves up. And I know that takes time, but I don't think we have time at this point. I don't think that there's time to, you know, sit here and take our young kids in kindergarten and first grade and teach them the things, because mostly those parents don't know. So it's going to come to the point. I know in some states that you can bring guns into public places. I know that there's some states where those laws are enacted. So I feel like it's going to get to the point where you're sitting at like a Golden Corral and someone just pops off and you don't even know. May he be white, Chinese, or whatever. I mean, the main issue is it's been white civilians and police officers that have been Caucasian that have been killing the Black men. That's the main issue. But it's going to come to a point where we're going to have to fight back. And people will have to die. And if we just turn the other cheek, it will continue to happen. And what happened was people were fighting back in the 60s and 70s, and history repeats itself. So at this point, history is repeating itself, and it's getting worse. You know what I'm saying? So
my question with that is the numbers. That's the only thing that's my only concern is the numbers. Like that's my biggest thing. If we're gonna fight back, you gotta have the numbers. Like in the Army, we fight 3-1. If we're gonna fight back, let's say it's 500 of us. Like you need in Ferguson, like when Ferguson rioted after that, I was proud of them. Some people were like mad. They were like, "Oh, that's so sad." I'm like, "They mad? Cool. I mean, you know, express yourself." But it's the numbers. If the Black Panthers want to do that, or we want to have organized violence, you gotta have the numbers, because what you're gonna get is a, huh?
I think that we have the
It'll be a
numbers.
massacre.
It will be a massacre, because they're gonna bring the army. They're gonna bring police forces from all.
They're gonna bring the real guns.
That's
And
true.
so what I don't want us to do is lose the mission statement, because we get emotional, or we get driven by emotion and we want to retaliate, and then we end up, you know, they will discredit our whole movement and our whole cause.
That's where the leaders come in at. That's why we need leaders, strong leaders who be like, no, we need to fall back this time, regroup, and then let something happen, you know.
What confidence do we really have if we feel that? I don't want to say that Black.
Can you talk up a little bit?
I'm sorry. I don't want to say that Black people are superior to anyone. I don't want to say that. But if we go back to our history and we looked at the longest civilization, the most successful civilization was among the Nile River, and that was ran by Black people. So we have to remember, we have the smarts. Numbers are not. We are superior in as far as thinking than anyone else. We built pyramids that no one can recreate because we are that smart. So we can't not have confidence in our people to know that if it comes down to it, that we can do it, because we can. And it just has to be done. We can't be scared to die for our younger generation. We can't be scared to die for our kids. And that's what it's going to come to.
So let me bring this point up then, because one, I can't speak for everybody else, but I'm not scared to die no matter what approach we take. All right, and that's just total. If we're non-violent, we're violent. We're out here fighting. If we're not fighting, I'm prepared to die, and a lot of people are prepared to die as well. I don't think that's why a lot of people make that distinction between violence and non-violence. But one thing we also have to remember is when you have organized militancy, which I'm gonna call it. I'm not gonna call it violent or non-violent. I'm gonna call it organized militancy, because that's what we're trying to get here.
I like that term.
You have to be disciplined. And a lot of people don't have that discipline. So when we talk about having leaders to organize and to lead us, a lot of our leaders don't have damn discipline. So how can we expect them to teach us something that they don't have? That's like me asking my mom to teach me how to cook Caribbean food, and she's not Caribbean. It's just not gonna happen. So we have to begin to identify leaders who are, one, serious and authentic and genuine. 2, that are disciplined themselves, and 3, have a spiritual foundation and understanding as to what the hell is going on. And we don't have somebody who can really give us all 3 of those things right here, right now. That's why we are stagnant. That's why we become complacent. Because
I've had this argument before with a couple of my homies and homegirls, and I was going in on like Young Thug and you know all these rappers who talk about violence, this, self crack, this, but like, okay, we need y'all now to say something that's gonna get us going, say something, and nobody said anything. You know what I'm saying? And then and what I got from that was that, like I was saying before, nothing happens by coincidence. These people were put in place to pacify us and give us all these illusions of all this great stuff that happens. But when we need them, like we needed, King and X, Medgar Evers, people like that, when we needed them to say something in the past, they would speak up. But now we need people to lead us and be that voice. Because, like, say, for instance, if Nas were to say something, Nas is infinitely more powerful than us right now. You know what I'm saying? If Nas says, all right, we're going to be in Central Park at 10 o'clock tonight, he going to have at least 1,000 people in Central Park. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to us trying to do that. You know what I'm saying?
We can't expect for people to be the voice of a movement when they're under contract by the people who are oppressing us.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's what I'm saying. They were put here. That's what I'm saying. They were put here for a purpose to be our stuff. That's why somebody out of us, somebody who hasn't reached that level yet, but who is still has the charisma and the strong will to lead throughout all of this. You know what I'm saying?
I think what that raises the question is, that raises a really significant question. Why is it that the people that have the most influence amongst the black community, entertainers and athletes, who really don't have a voice, they don't have that avenue to speak out? People like Steve Harvey or like Jesse Jackson, or those what's that dude? The dude on
Al
News
Sharpton.
One. Al Sharpton is another one. News One. He's kind of a heavy second. Anyway, those guys don't have. I think so. Yeah, those guys don't have the influence that Lil Wayne or Birdman.
They do, though.
Like.
They do.
Do they? Because I feel like if Jesse Jackson was like, everybody meet in Atlanta, everybody wouldn't do it. But the moment Beyonce or Jay-Z say something, or Kanye.
I don't know if you guys know about Muhammad Ali, but I watched a couple interviews the other day. And Muhammad Ali, and y'all know that they try to draft him. They tried to draft him and he declined. And you know, got a lot of shit from that. And in the United States, they wouldn't even interview him. No newscasters were allowed to put him on the news. So he traveled to UK, and you guys can watch this interview. You guys can look it up, Muhammad Ali UK interview. And he talks about how he had so much prestige, so much power. He could say anything, and he could sway black people anywhere to do anything. And so if he could have chose to join the army and get a yacht, and he was talking about he could have the choice to have money, but he had so much prestige that he didn't sell out his people. So they have the choice. Al Sharpton is a sellout, and I don't even want to go there. But they have so much prestige and so much power to do things. They just don't. And it takes us to be on the same page. And I like that, Major, you use the word militant and discipline. We can't be wishy-washy. We can't say either we're going to do nonviolent or violent. We have to all be on the same page. And that's the only way it's going to change, is if we're on the same page. We're so in the middle. There's no gray area at this point. They're killing us. There's no gray area. We're either going to fight back or we're going to sit back. That's it.
All right, so check this out. During New Year's, before we turned up, before we had a good time, I watched TD Jakes, right? And he was basically talking about, it had nothing to do with violence, it had nothing to do with none of that. He talked about the gifted versus the gift, the gifted versus the gift. Like God, this is my belief, it's not you guys' belief or anything like that, but I believe in God. And he said that God gives us a gift. And to some people, their gift is to speak in public. To some people, it's to be notarized figures. To some people, it's to be celebrities. But they're still individuals, and there's a difference between the gift that they have and them being a gifted person, because they still have a life that they have to live. They still have responsibilities as a human being that they have to sustain. To attend to. So we can't really expect them. We hope for them to be able to speak up for us because they have that notoriety. But at the end of the day, they're still separated from their gift because they have a gift. Like, we might have a gift for public speaking, but that don't make anybody more or less able to really know who we are. That's their gift. and a lot of people want to use that gift to promote different ideas and different movements and things like that, but a lot of people don't as well. We don't have the right to expect someone to do something for us. Like it would be nice for them. It's like, you are part of the black community. You are a multi-million-dollar artist. Come speak on behalf of the black people. And if they did that, how many people would be upset that they actually did it? Let's be real.
A lot.
Some people rather not make that risk of losing all that money, that notoriety, that publicity, and just say nothing. So I think at some point we have to be like, you know what? I'm not expecting anybody to speak up for me. I'm not about to wait for a celebrity or a politician or a singer or anything like that. I'm not about to let them speak up for me, because there is power in numbers. And even though they have 1.4 million followers on Twitter, just as well, I have 1,000-something followers on Twitter. You probably have 1,000-something followers on Twitter. What if we're all speaking the exact same voice? We can use our voice, and I think we discredit ourselves so often because we think it's easier. Because the road that we're about to face and that we're about to embark on is not about to be easy. So instead of us trying to take that easy road out, I say let's do it ourselves. I'm not about to, because that's why we got here. So that's why we are where we are now, because we waited for somebody else to give us a pass. We waited for the white man. We waited for our parents. We waited for anybody and everybody else. That time has to go. That mentality has to go, because if we're waiting for somebody to respect us, we're waiting for somebody to give us our rights, if we're waiting for somebody to give us justice, we're going to be waiting for the rest of our lives, and we have. But at some point, we got to say, you know what? I don't even care. I'm about to build my community. I'm about to build my home. I'm about to build my church, my schools, my banks, and we're about to just do the damn thing, because, I mean, let's be real. We're all human beings. We're going to mess up. Somebody's going to get left out. So if we're waiting for somebody else, there are chances that the black folk will get left out, and we have. The LGBTQ community haven't been left out. The Asian community hasn't been left out. Like, freaking, even Pakistani and Iraqis and like all these people, they got some type of rights. They got some type of notoriety in the last couple of years because of social concerns that have been going on. But what about the black community? Every time we talk about us, what happens? Oh, you're keeping racism alive by talking about it. Oh, Black Lives Matter, so does all lives matter.
Things that always rubs me the wrong way. How nobody ever tells Jewish people to shut up about the Holocaust, or nobody ever tells Native Americans to shut
Yes,
about,
they do.
about the Trail of Tears.
Yeah, they really do.
They tell them it didn't happen. That's what
Yeah,
they started
did.
to say. That the
We don't know
Holocaust
that it happened, to be honest. I'm not gonna go there, but
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I don't like how in the news, and a lot of times our own people be like, oh, stop talking about it. But nobody ever tells all these other, like, you want to tell a gay person to, oh, you're not being bullied, shut up about it. You know what I'm saying? Especially nowadays, you know, they're gonna do something about it.
I like him. Who is he?
he's right. We're not told. They're not told to shut up. We're taught about the Holocaust. We're taught about the Trail of Tears. But the only thing we're taught about with black people is that our most successful accomplishment was that, okay, we came into slavery and we got out. That's all we're taught. That's the only thing that we're taught. We're taught about slavery, and we're taught, like, you know, okay, you were slaves, don't play the victim. I even hear black women and men say we can't play the victim. Like, what does that even mean, that we can't play the victim? I'm just not sure. And Major, you say we need to do the damn thing. What is it that we need to do, though? We have to be concise, and we have to know. And everybody
it's called Pan-Africanism, my sister. It means
Amen.
that's what we do.
I say.
That's what Garvey was talking about. That's what Dr. King was talking about. I don't care who you believe in. Every last one of them believe that we as a people had to develop our own institutions. That's the same thing, and that's what education has taught me. So I don't care. Again, I don't care if you believe in any of these people that's behind me, but we have to build our own. That's the solution. And a lot of people don't want to hear that. They talk. See, I serve in the military, right? And this one young lady, she said, "How can you say such a thing and you serve our country?" I said, "You damn right, I serve my country, because I'm learning about it just as well as you, and I was to put my life on the line, right?" But at some point, I said, "You know what? To hell with this country if it's not to hell with me." So if I'm fighting for my country and I come back and my country don't even want to serve me, then how should I feel as a black man?
That's how the Vietnam war veterans felt.
Yeah.
It was like I'm in another country fighting brown people just like me, and I come back and I still can't go to the same restroom. I still can't go to the same movie theater.
Now I'm not saying I don't love my country. I'm making sure because I'm gonna have some soldiers looking down on me when I say that. But I love my country to the death of me. But at the same time, I love my people, and we have to begin to develop our own community in our own country. And it's gonna have to be in America because we're not going nowhere. I didn't ask to come over here, but we here now, so shit, I'm not going back nowhere.
Yeah.
I think what people don't, a lot of people here on here are not in the army like you and I. So both of us in the army, and what I've seen is that what it does is it gives us a very interesting perspective on America. I say that because there will be a lot of times where I'm in my uniform. Just yesterday, I was in my full uniform, and this white guy came over me. He ran across the Kroger parking lot. He had on a rebel hat, a rebel belt buckle, cowboy boots, and a long beard. I mean, I'm talking about Civil War, get her done type hat.
Good old boy.
He rushed over there, jumped over a buggy, and he grabbed my hand and said, "Sir, I just want to thank you for your country. I love what you boys are doing over there, and I want you to just keep up because y'all doing a good job." And I was like, whoa. Like, it really took me back because clearly this is the type of dude that if I ran into him on another day, I would have been called all types of ends and coons and all this type of stuff. So what it does is it gives us a different perspective to where we see the hypocritical nature of a lot of, people in America where they say, oh, Jews forget about it, or, Indians forget about it. Whether they say that or not, I think what we have a responsibility for and bring that all back in is that we can't control how other people act. We can only control how we react.
Yes.
So we can only control ourselves. And so I think that's the most important part when you're talking about nonviolent protests. We're talking about dealing with racist police officers. We can't control them. Being 13% of minority in America, we can't control the other 65% that are white. We can only control what we do and how we interact. Now, I'm not saying lay down and assimilate and do a tap dance for, people. I'm just saying... I'm saying that you need to know how to navigate. I think that's the biggest thing.
Another difference I recognize is a lot of people don't know the difference between nonviolence and peaceful protests. Because one thing when this all started at Georgia Southern, one thing I told them, I said, hey, we're gonna be nonviolent, but we're not gonna be peaceful. We're not, because at some point that peace was taken from us. The opportunity for peace was taken from us when our brothers and sisters were being killed. So we have to, quote unquote, disturb the peace. Because if you are comfortable, if you are at peace, then you're not going to understand or want to listen to anything I'm saying. But if I'm non-violent, we can be aggressive. We can be actively engaged in what we're doing, but we don't have to put our hands on you. Now, if you put your hands on me or my woman, then I'm going to put you to the cemetery. That's what Malcolm X said. Now, I don't really know. I mean, and this is one thing the military has taught me. A lot of people have these different conversations until they actually are in that situation.
Right.
And I'm not sitting here saying, let's make sure we don't fight back when police. We haven't reached that point of the movement yet, to be honest with you. We haven't had the workshops to really understand what nonviolence means, because it has transformed and means something totally different. But what I am saying is we have to, become informed as to what it means. We have to understand our limits. We have to understand what we're trying to accomplish, because if we're just simply out here being violent and we're simply out here just fighting to be fighting, I'm not joining that movement, nor am I trying to lead it. But if we're out here really taking steps forward and they are actively against what we're trying to accomplish, and are trying to kill us, are trying to manipulate our situations, then that's when we have to address that then. But we haven't reached that point. We also have to begin to address the fact, I'm not saying that we're wrong, but the system is wrong. The system is unjust. But we also have to address the fact that some of these situations could be prevented. Our own brothers and sisters have some fault to some degree as to putting themselves in these situations. Like, I'm not about to be out here, like you said, I've been pulled over once in my life, and that was when I was in uniform. The police officer asked me, was that my car? I had an army tag. I have an army tag on my car. He asked me in uniform, was that my car? I'm like, are you serious? Like, are you serious? You pulled me over to ask me, was that my car? He didn't see I was in uniform. But I could have acted crazy. I could have said, why are you, I just said, thank you, sir. Go on about your day. Have a good evening.
See, the same thing happened to me 2 days ago. Literally, I got pulled over because he said he couldn't see my tags. Mind you, I'm from East Atlanta, but I had to get an Ohio tag. I have Ohio tags in my back window and a big old sign on my car that says The Ohio State University. And he pulls me over. I've been wearing Ohio State stuff all day. He pulls me over. Why is your tag say Ohio State and your license say Georgia? I said, well, I go to Ohio State. I'm in school in Ohio. He could not draw that correlation between. He didn't want to draw it. Not that he couldn't. He didn't want to draw that correlation, which that kind of stuff it'll frustrate you. Like even back to what you were saying earlier about how you have to react a certain way. With the nonviolent protests, I feel like that's still something that needs to be, I guess, discussed, because without someone actually bringing it up, it's going to happen. If that kind of makes sense. Like if we don't say anything about it, these peaceful protests that you're having in Ferguson or Atlanta are going to turn. I feel like they have the potential to turn violent very quickly, if that makes sense.
I think that creating that nonviolent, peaceful thing is explaining to people that they do so much stuff is done to agitate the oppressed. Like everything is done to agitate us so that we react, and then they can kill us. That's how it. Except, of course, not in every case the person was violent, but in many cases it's been, oh, he rented the car, like with the, the Mike Brown thing. Oh, he rented the car. Some people say this, some people say that. So it's like, of course we get upset, but I think that's what it's all about. They want to create that atmosphere for us to get upset, so then they have a justified cause to attack us. So if we're able to explain to people that we're nonviolent to be effective, like it's to be effective. And I think that because every time I talk to people, that's what they always say. Well, why? They kill us. Why can't we do whatever? So I think that if it's thoroughly explained that the only way they know how to react to us is once we're violent, then that's when we'll actually get somewhere, once people understand that. And we can talk about how in the past has been peaceful and nonviolent and what's happened from there. But until it's truly understood why, and just as opposed to listening to history that people don't understand, it's like not going to happen.
I think you got to look at the psychology of direct action, and I promise I'll shut up. But looking at Dr. King and Malcolm X, one thing was very clear to me. There are two things that came out of the psychology of direct action. One was a lot of people are very comfortable with violence because of the fact that it gives them the easy way out. Because if I respond to you and your violence with violence, one, I'm probably gonna end up dead. So I don't have to deal with you fighting me. I don't have to deal with you putting the hoses on me. I don't have to deal with the dogs. I'm dead. And then the other one is, shoot, I don't lost it. But shoot, I don't lost it, man. I was.
I was with you. I was with you.
The same thing happened to me. I'm gonna say.
We hear you, Mason.
I'm gonna say this. I gotta get ready to go skating. They have
Skating.
a lot of people. It's Cascade Sundays.
Okay then.
What I brought up, and especially me being so interested in law, is that I always have to play the devil's advocate. A lot of people may not like this, but it's true. You said that we have to be accountable for our own actions. I'm not saying that Trayvon Martin was his fault. I'm not saying Mike Brown was his fault. But a lot of times, I'll put it like this. Mike Brown wasn't an angel. Whatever. We don't know what happened that day. We don't know what he did, what he didn't do. But sometimes our actions agitate the situations. They may provoke us, but just because somebody calls you big, fat, and ugly, you don't have to respond. If an officer is being rude and aggressive, sometimes, get off the side of the street, you MFer. You know what? You messed up, but I'm gonna get off the side of the street.
We don't know what happened.
Well, no, we don't. I'm not trying to speculate, but I'm just saying in the situations with people, whether it's Eric Garner or someone, the police officers were wrong, 100%. But sometimes we put ourselves in worse situations because we feel like we have the need to talk back and explain our case. I'm not doing nothing. Why are you pulling me over? You don't have the right to do that. Don't touch me. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? A lot of times, those things cause situations to escalate. That's it. Nobody wants to admit our faults. But in the court of law, as just me, I have to look at it from both stands. What did you do to provoke that situation or agitate that situation?
I think one thing that we have to say is that one thing my mentor would always tell me, Big Chris, for all y'all who know him, he would say we're all connected by our oppression, but we're not connected by our reaction. So a lot of times when we talk about these injustices happening, we oftentimes say, "Oh, well, they could have." I mean, I agree with you at some point, Josh, but at the same time, we cannot regulate how we all respond to our oppression because we're all gonna respond differently. If I see somebody call me a nigga, which it has been happening previous times before, I'm probably not gonna get mad. I don't care. I really don't. But that's not to say somebody else who hears that word probably gets pissed the hell off. We're all connected by that oppression, but we cannot be limited by our reaction because we're all going to react differently because we all have different experiences. We bring different things to the table. So we all have to take that into account when we discuss how we respond to these injustices and how we respond to this systemic oppression.
I really think the most progressive thing for us, and I'm so glad that we're all able to come together and talk about this, but I think the most progressive thing for us is going to be to get on the same page. There can't be this, we got to do this or this and that. There's no in between at this point.
No dissension. Got to be as one.
I feel like there's different approaches to take, but we all have to be on the same page on the approach to take, and there has to be one. It can't be this and that. There can't be any gray area. And it's no either we do nonviolent or peaceful or violent. It's one area, and we all have to come to that consensus, whether we like it or not.
And I think, and that's what I was saying, I think that that's only going to happen once we explain why this is the way.
What do you mean?
So, okay, so to say we're going to go about it doing this way, unless we're able to, okay, so we could all be on the same page, but we have to get others who are not as informed as us or who may not have the same, be as passionate or maybe passionate about something else. Let them understand why. Why is this the way? And justify that. Because if you would think about even a child, if you tell a child, brush your teeth before you go to bed, until that child gets a cavity or is like, this is why you need to do this because you can get cavities and then this is going to happen and this is going to happen, they're not going to brush their teeth or they're not going to brush them correctly. So just saying people are not going to, I think explaining, reasoning, and justifying and having all of that ready for when it is time to say, okay, this is why we need to go about it this way after all of us get on the same page.
Are you saying it takes experience first? Is that what you're saying? That
Wait, what?
Are you, because you said that if they brush their teeth and until they get a cavity, they won't learn. So you're saying it takes experience? Because if that's the case, then one of our siblings is going to have to die.
No, either you get a cavity or someone explains to you, you will get a cavity or this will happen. And I think we've experienced that people dying, not necessarily through ourselves, that happening to or a friend, but we've seen that on the media. So that's experience. You don't necessarily have to feel that for you to understand.
I think from my personal experience with leadership and really trying to develop myself as a leader, one thing I've understood as leading was we can do that, but that will take a lot of time. It'll take a lot of investment. It'll take a lot of patience. It's possible, but we're looking at it from a massive standpoint, trying to really mobilize our people as, like, in terms of millions of people. We have to give them something to believe in. That's honestly my approach to it. We have to begin to show them this is why. I'm not going to tell you what. I mean, I can tell you what we were going to do, but if I tell you why, it's going to take too long. So at some point we have to begin to trust one another and trust the people who are leading us in this direction. But we have to give them something to trust. We can't just be like, okay, I'm about to lead us forward because I want to be our leader. Like, why should I trust you as our leader? What is within you? I mean, again, I'm a spiritual person. It takes that light that's in you. It takes that spirituality that's in you to really begin to move people and inspire them to move forward. That's the only way you can do it. Because we're not in a war that's like Al Qaeda or ISIS or Japan or China. We're fighting spiritual beings. We're fighting demonic spirit. Like, this is what it is. And so if we're really talking about mobilizing and making effective change, we have to begin to really understand what that means. So if we have leaders who, one, can identify with what we are fighting, they see it for themselves, and two, that they know and understand, like, okay, this is what we need to do. Because it's not going to be this one answer. It's not going to be this one solution. But if we make a series of decisions, that it's going to move us forward in a spiritual battle. So if we have that leader who can, or leaders, they don't have to be one, but if we have those people who can collectively come together and have the people believe in them, or not even believe in them, but believe in what strengthens them, really God. If you want to, if you want to be honest, but if you believe in them or believe in Him, then that's the only way we can make it move forward. Dr. King believed that it was God. Malcolm X believed it was first he believed it was Elijah Muhammad, but he really was talking about Allah. And then you had Marcus Garvey. So talk about Nelson Mandela as well. We can talk about all these great leaders, and it was not them who they wanted people to. It was the higher power. That's what's consistent throughout history. We go back to our history to understand where we've come from. We're destined to repeat it. That's my only That's my only thing about that.
That's deep.
I'm done on my soapbox now.
I say, my brother.
I say.
Is it still going? Okay, cool. I'm about to head out. I feel like we had a very, very informative conversation. It was a pleasure.
Please be safe, bro. Please be safe with them skates.
Yeah, safe with your skates.
Need to be worried about Atlanta PD. You know they be deep. But I'll see y'all later. I look forward to the next meeting. Everybody
Stick around for me.
Alright, nice talking to you.
All right, man, be good.
Well,
This simply, I guess this can serve. I really would like to see this done more often. I mean, to be honest with you, because this is something that's much needed dialogue to really have people come together with educated opinions.
Can you see how many people watching on YouTube?
Right now we have 2. I want to say hi to you guys. Appreciate y'all. I mean, I'm sorry you guys couldn't get in here, but we definitely will be having another one. And this is just simply ideas. This is not something that we are trying to push forward as SNCC, or SNCC is strictly nonviolent for the time being now. And one thing I did want to say is the reason why SNCC no longer existed until this moment was because they were nonviolent, and then in the late 60s, early 70s, they changed their name to the Student National Coordinated Committee, and they became violent, and they started losing finances, they started losing support, from donors, and so that they began to crumble, they fell. So I want us to begin to really understand our history as to what legend are we taking up, what are we really trying to accomplish, what are we really trying to do, and then we take that forward and build on that. We don't have to do what they did, but we have to know what they did, if that makes sense. So with that, I challenge you guys to keep educating yourselves, keep empowering yourselves, and truly try to inspire people around you. That's the only way we can make this thing better. It's a new year. It's a new opportunity for greatness, and I say,
my brother.
I say.
All right. Anybody have any last comment? You want to put anything out there? I know we had a few that didn't say anything. Diamond, Joy, Bree, Trey.
Hello to all you people I've never seen before. Good evening.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
All right. Well, if nothing further, be on the lookout. We'll probably try to set this thing up again in a near future so that more people can get involved in the conversation. Again, I'm gonna act like I'm a news anchor right now. But I am yours truly, James Major Woodall, and you have a good night.
Good night.
All right, y'all be safe out there in the world.
I say.